Have you ever done a stock take of your life? What I mean by that is, have you ever actually sat back and asked yourself a few fundamental questions about you, your life? And I'm not talking about having an existential crisis. I'm simply saying, have you asked yourself a few key things to help you understand or gauge where exactly you stand in your life and or in the grand scheme of things? You'll be surprised how a majority of the people around us go through their entire life without ever really asking themselves, what am I here for? Or where do I stand? Or what have I actually done with my life? Or what do I intend to do with my life? When we are growing up, we have certain dreams, ambition, vision of how our life is going to pan out. And often, being battered by life's clubs and whips and what have you, it kind of, all those dreams take a backseat. And then there comes a moment when most of us, not all of us, but most of us, surrender. Not in devotion, but in a sense of resignation. That, fine, this is life. What can I do? I feel that is a mistaken view. If you're going to give up so easily, then what are you doing on this planet? And somewhere everybody feels that I am special. And you can realize your specialness, if I may say that. It's entirely up to you. But if you're just going to think that I'm special, you will never actually sit back and go through, as I said, an analysis of your life or a simple stock take. Many years ago, I think I might have shared this little story. When I used to do astrology, a young boy, 2 years elder to me at that time, I was, I think, 17 and he was 19. And he came with his mother. And they showed me the horoscope. And they said, what do you think? What do you think of my life? I said, it's a good horoscope. But what in particular do you want me to focus on? And his mother said he wants to be an IAS officer. He wants to be a civil services officer. Can he be one of those? I said, look, I'll be honest with you. When astrology was invented or created, this post did not exist. So the classical texts would never say that so-and-so person can be a civil servant or not. Yes, somebody can be a minister in the king's court. Those kind of yogas, those kind of combinations might exist, did exist in fact. But beyond that, everything else is a matter of interpretation. So I said, my interpretation is, and I'm sorry to break it to you, I said to that person, I don't think you will be an IAS officer. And he said, there must be something special in my horoscope. He got mad at me. Really, he was upset. And I said, look, I don't mean to upset you. Of course you're a special person. I had to be a little diplomatic. I said, your horoscope is a special horoscope. It should be wrapped in a red cloth and offered to the gods. And you will have a good career, I said, but I don't see you becoming an IAS officer based on just the planets, and planets can be wrong. And that was a time when I practiced astrology, so I simply said what the horoscope was telling me. And then, of course, he was mad and he thought I was mad. And I didn't know what I was talking about. I didn't realize his potential, didn't see what spark he had in his eyes. So a decade later, he was working as a project analyst in one of the organizations, but he never made it to civil services. If he had kept his dream alive, if he had not lost sight of his ambition, of his dream, he probably could have been a civil services officer. But the thing that happens is when we just start to go with the flow, philosophically speaking, it sounds pretty good, go with the flow. But then life just takes you along. And if you don't know how to swim, you can imagine how you would be going with the flow. It's not a pleasant sight, nor a comfortable one. So go with the flow is good in terms of surrender, in terms of acceptance, but it is not good when you really want to make something happen in your life. In Walk the Dragon program, I shared with you this little story from Warren Buffett's life, who used to be world's richest man, and due to very unfortunate circumstances is no longer the richest, but still in the top 5 or 6. But I'm sure he's not complaining. In fact, he lives a very frugal life. He's still in the same apartment, home he had been 30 years ago. He still drives an old car. He's pledged away 99% of his wealth, or 95%. In fact, that's something which is deeply admirable about the West. In India, barring maybe Azim Premji, and you don't really hear people giving away their wealth the way they do it in the West, by giving donations to universities, research and whatnot. Anyway, so he was flying with his, obviously, pilot. And his pilot's name was Mike Flint. He said to Mike, Mike, what is really important to you in life? Mike said, my family. It's a very classical answer all men give, but they never seem to really care about their families. But everybody says, my family, my family. Anyway, so he said, my family. Warren said, look, it's understandable, but what I'm asking you to do is make a list. Make a list of 25 things. Or I don't think he said 25. He said, make a list of things that you would absolutely like to do before you die. A sort of a bucket list, but somewhat different. Not necessarily things you would just like to do, but things you would just like to do, if you see what I mean. She said, make a list of those things. So Mike said, should I do it after I land the chopper or right now? He said, after you land. He said, okay. So they landed and he went and he made that list. And on the next flight, he said to Mike, he said, is the list ready? He said, yes. How many things, he said, Warren said, have you listed on that list? He said, I've got 25 things. I've listed 25 things that I would absolutely like to do before I die. Fair enough, Warren said. Now split this list into 2. One list should just state 5 line items, and the other list would obviously state 20. And he divided the list into 2 lists. Now, what do I do with it? Mike said. And Warren said, "What do you think this means?" He said, Mike said, "I feel what you are telling me is the list that shows 5 items is the list I should focus on in my life. This is what is really important to me. And the list that contains 20 other items, I can do later. I can do maybe after I'm done with this 5 or these 5. That is my secondary list. This is my primary list." Warren said, "Half right, not complete. The first list of 5 items is the only list you must work on. The only list that is important. The remaining 20 items, the 20 things you've listed on the other one, are the things, give it the title," he said, "avoid at all costs." That's a useless list. That is going to distract you, and that is going to be a hurdle in you really accomplishing or doing the first 5. The first 5 are the only things that actually matter to you. So if you were to ask me that how to actually do a stock take, how to do that analysis of your life, where you stand, and what is it that you should be doing, and so on, then I would say begin by making 2 lists. Begin by making 1 list, split into 2, get rid of the second one. The first list is all that matters. And that first list is what you need to devote your life to. If you cannot list anything, you have a real problem. You are setting yourself up for misery, unless you are terribly miserable already, in which case you will just be more aware of it now. But nothing grand is going to happen in your life. Nothing grand. You are not going to realize your ambition, your aim. Today, you may be 20, thinking a whole life ahead of me, but soon you'll be 30, and soon you'll be 40, and 45, and 50. Just how you spend the first 20 years of your life, you will spend the next 20, and the next 20, and then... right? Nothing's going to change if you don't work towards the change. And it is in your hands. So the first step is make a list. Write down, like your daddy used to say. Write down. Make a checklist. Write down. So, write down. What do you want? Second, and make sure you do it confidentially. You will know soon why. Second, what are the top 3 things that you would classify as, let's say, sin? Top 3 things that you are not proud of. And if you have repeated those 3 things thousands of times, you can just put 1 into 10 or 20 or 300 or 400, whatever the case may be. But the idea is, what are the top 3 things that you're not proud of, that you have done in your life? You're welcome to list 5 or 7 or more, but I think 3 is a good number. It's the most powerful number in numerology, by the way. Not that I really believe in all that, but... So, first is, make a list of what would you like to do. Split it into 2. The first list is the list you need to focus on. And that's not my opinion, that's a billionaire's opinion, so you better pay attention. Second list is, what are you not proud of? 3 things. 3 things you did in your life that you believe shouldn't have done, or that you believe you could have done differently? What are those three things? What comes to your mind when you start listing that? Just 2, 3 more, 5, 10, 20? List as many as you can. But top 3 are the ones that is the basis of your insecurities, self-doubt, and guilt. If you feel insecure in your life about anything, I can almost guarantee you it has something to do with what you will jot down in that list. If you feel plagued, if you're plagued by self-doubt, I almost promise you it has something to do with what you have noted in that list. If you are feeling guilty but you don't exactly know why, consult that list. If you're running low on self-esteem, the answer is right in front of you in that list. And you are your own best judge if you're honest with yourself. Udredatmana atmanam natmanam vasadet. You are your own best friend and your own worst enemy. So the answers to a majority of the negative emotions that come and haunt you sometimes or repeatedly or derail you, the answer is going to be very evident in that list. So first is make 2 lists. What matters to you? Split them into 2. The top 5 is what you focus on, says Uncle Buffett. Okay? Second list is you write down what you're not proud of. Third list, because you're not such a bad person that I may have made you feel until now. The third list, make a list of things that you are actually proud of. 3 things. Being born in a good family is nothing to be proud of. You have nothing to do with it. So list things that you did. What are some of the things that you are actually proud of? This king was on his way to the mosque to pray. And because, very rich people or people in great power are used to empty roads, have you noticed? The roads are cleared for them beforehand. And they are driving fast on empty roads because they can't wait to be in crowded places. Great crowds await for them when they zip through empty roads. Just think of the I don't know what's the word, but very pathetic life. How much pretense could there be? You're zipping through empty roads so you can be in front of large crowds. So this king was no different. And his people in front had sticks and whips and things, the beating people, just pushing them out of the way, get away, get away. The king's his ride is going, he's going to the mosque. And they were really, beating the crap out of people, and people who were like holding on to their hurt bodies and, their injured bodies and so on. They were saying, one of them said, I am amazed. If this is the good he is doing on the way to the mosque, I wonder what kind of sins is he going to confess while actually in the mosque. If this is the good in his eyes, what would be bad in his eyes? When you are making the third list, what you are proud of, be conservative. Be generous in the second list, which was what you're not proud of, and be a little conservative in the third list. That what is it that you're actually proud of? Reason being, we underestimate the role other people play in our lives. We think when I have done something, oh, it's me. But what a grave mistake that would be. How ignorant. Because a lot of people have played a role, their respective roles, in helping you get to wherever you are today. Remembering that makes you humble. Remembering that makes us grateful. And if there is gratitude in your heart, if there is humility in your heart, true, genuine humility. And the fundamental difference between genuine humility and otherwise is if our humility is selective, if our humbleness is selective, that I'm going to be humble with this guy, and I will exercise humility in front of him, but him I will humiliate. Right? If you get that play of words wrong or right intentionally, that means the humbleness is artificial. Take off that cloak and stop messing with your own life. Be real. It's okay to not be humble, but come across that way then. But if you're humble, be genuinely humble. And one way of being genuinely humble, as I said, is to remember that you did not create this planet. And nobody cares what we think, what we do. Even some of the greatest inventions, if you think of, they played a huge role. But guess what? If they hadn't done it, would still be alive. It would be doing something else. Somebody else would have done it. Something differently. Maybe it would have been a boon not to have those inventions. Who knows? Anybody's guess. The idea is that if you're grateful and you are humble, you will be more genuine in your life. You will be less anxious and you will be at much greater peace. And above all, you will not feel the repeated urge to have people like you.